All right. Well, let's get started. Well, welcome everyone to the first webinar, Contributing to the CEDS Open Source Community to Affect Change. We are glad, everyone, that you're here, and we're really excited to kick this off. I'm Jackie Hughes. I'm a business analyst with CEDS, and running most of the show today is Dwayne Brown. He's our CEDS OSC, which stands for Open Source Community Lead. During our hour together, we're going to briefly cover what the open source community is, but we're going to spend most of the time detailing the steps to take before submitting a use case, how to submit that use case, and then we're going to, since we have a bunch of awesome stakeholders here today, we're going to take some time to discuss existing use cases and just kind of the steps we take, what's out there right now in the open source community that you can go and comment on, and how you can contribute. So I mentioned this before, but I'll mention it one more time. We are recording and I have muted microphones, but please feel free to drop questions and comments into the chat. We will be monitoring that. But for today, before we really kick it off here, we wanted to start off with some polls, just as we let others come that might be trickling in here. So give me 1 second. I'm going to get this poll up. Okay. Hopefully the poll is appearing on your screen. And it's, anyone can submit a comment on issues in the open source community. Is that true or is that false? Anyone can submit a comment on an issue that's in the open source community. It looks like. Nice, awesome. You are a great group, 17 responses and everyone's getting it correct. Awesome. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. Thanks for participating. And we have one more question. If you were tasked with proposing a new element to CEDS, do you know the steps to follow? So if you noticed we don't have something that you need inside CEDS, do you know what to do? Okay, some of you have actually submitted tickets before. No, that's why I'm here. I love to see that. We're thrilled that you're here. This is great. Right. Looks like we have a lot of first timers, which is awesome. Some of you can get to the website, but not sure where to go from there. We're here to help with that today, and then the following 2 Thursdays. We hope you'll continue to join us. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. And give me 1 second. All right. So here's our agenda for today. I've kind of covered what we're going to be talking about. Maintaining the standard. I'm going to give a very, very brief overview of the open source community, and we're going to talk about how to make changes, the steps to take before you submit your use case. We're going to talk about our DES inside CEDS, and then of course Dwayne's going to talk about submitting a use case, the challenges, how you introduce your challenge or your problem that you're having, and the components of a use case. And then we have a little bit of homework for you before the end, and then we'll take questions. So who decides? You do. I'm really excited to see you all here today because when I first joined the CEDS team, the first thing I started doing was working with the open source community. So it helped me, sorry about that. Oops. It helped me understand how CEDS is stakeholder driven. So it's not just our CEDS team sitting in a room, coming up with new elements and seeing how we can add to it, but it's driven by you all in the community. So with my experience with the open source community, I've been able to see stakeholders like you all, some of you here today, collaborate across states and across the domains inside CEDS to support your proposals. I've gotten to see the use cases become part of our CEDS annual new version release. It's really neat to get to engage with stakeholders through this and to see people work across states and organizations. So CEDS is comprised of an ever-expanding vocabulary, where currently we have over 25,000 elements and options. So you might be going, well, where did all these come from? Who decided we needed these? And that's where you, all the stakeholders, are involved, and you help CEDS evolve. So everything that happens inside CEDS is transparent through our open source community. The proposed elements, option sets, the changes, it's all documented in the OSC. So it's for all to view and comment on and influence. So the stakeholders, as you can see from this slide here, are who drive what happens inside CEDS. So before yes.
There's something that needs to be minimized so we can see the right-hand side of the slide. Oh, perfect, thank you.
Can you see it now? Yeah, sorry, it keeps popping up on me the past few days. Thank you, Nancy. So before I hand it off to Dwayne, I'm gonna drop a link in the chat to the webinar recording. It's from a webinar series we held over the winter, and I tell you the minute to tune in, because I just gave a very quick overview of the open source community. So if you wanna know more, I'll drop that link here in the chat. And do make sure you have access to the chat, because Dwayne's gonna now take over for screen sharing, and he might ask you some questions that you might want to answer throughout his presentation. So Dwayne, I'm gonna let you take over, and I'm gonna drop those links in the chat as Dwayne is doing that.
Great, thanks, Jackie. So the first thing I want to talk about is why submit a use case, right? Do I need to submit a use case to CEDS? Early on in CEDS, we looked for ways to expand the standard around things that we knew would be coming in the future. So when it was, first born CEDS, and you're looking, well, obviously things about students, and obviously things about schools and organizations, and then post-secondary and workforce. So just looking for things that would be coming in the future. And while we still look at those items, every year we do a complete domain review. This year we're doing a workforce domain review. The year before we did, I don't remember the order, post-secondary. The year before that we did early childhood. So we do full domain reviews looking at just all of CEDS. But for the most part, what you're going to see happening in the open source community as different stakeholders are submitting tickets and issues, you're going to see things that are happening on the ground right now. So some stakeholder, some organization, some state, some district, some post-secondary institution, someone is doing something right now with CEDS. And in doing that thing, they're discovering that CEDS is missing something that they need. And so they go to open a ticket. When a new element or option is needed, or a new domain area, even in CEDS, that would contain a lot of different elements are needed. If you need an update or a change or anything in the element details, that's the time to open a CEDS use case ticket. So you may be working on an implementation of CEDS. It could be the integrated data store. It could be the data warehouse. It could be the Parquet version of the warehouse. It could just be use of the elements through a data dictionary, things that you're working on. It could be the coming soon, it's already out in draft, ontology that we're building in CEDS, but will be finalized as we progress throughout the next year. Whatever it is, and you're in there and you're thinking, I can't find this in CEDS and I need this for what I'm working on right now. What do I do? At that point, sometimes in your head, the thought is, should I just extend and make something custom on my end since CEDS doesn't have that? No. Ideally, no. Emphatically, no. Whatever I would say, 99.999, there's a lot of nines, % of the time, if you need something related to education data that's not in CEDS, there is a very good chance, and I would be willing to bet on it, that what it is that you need is common. And it's not really your organization specific, or as organization specific as you might think it is. It's common, and it's common to you. It's probably common to someone else. It's something that would be needed. And so at that point, you're looking for something that's not in CEDS, likely common. That's when you're going to open a ticket in CEDS and submit a use case, right? And you're going to say, this is what I have that's going on. This is what I need. It's that point where it's time to engage the community. Don't go it on your own. You can definitely add to the standard, and you'll be improving the standard for others who will be coming behind you. They may be working on something over here while you're working on something over here, and both of you are growing the standard for something that they're going to need next, or that you're going to need next. So that's the time to definitely go ahead and submit that. So something you're working on the ground, you have a need, that's the time to go ahead and do that. And I went backwards, so forward. Okay, so Now we're going to talk about what to do before you actually submit the use case. You've determined you need it. How do you know for sure that it's not in CEDS or that someone else isn't already working on that? So we're going to talk about what you do before the use case. So the first thing before submitting a use case, obviously, is to make sure it doesn't already exist in CEDS. So I want to walk you through searching for existing elements inside of CEDS, and Jackie's going to put a link in the chat for the CEDS website for the elements and where you would go to actually take a look at that. So I'll let her put that in there while I bring up the website. So here's the CEDS website, and where we're going to go here, we're going to take a look at two different locations. So we have the, drop this link in here real quick in case she's not able to. And she did anyway, and there I went. Okay, so managing the webinar and everything takes a little bit of extra effort. So we have the CEDS website. There's two locations. You have the domain entity schema and you have the elements search, right? So two different places that you can use to go and take a look at something. So we're going to pretend for our particular use case that we want to add something related to the years of experience of someone. Like how many years of experience does a particular staff member have in the area that it is that they're working in, right? So, okay, I know I need years of experience, and I'm wondering if CEDS has something related to years of experience. So I'm going to jump over to the data model. I'm going to go into the domain entity schema. This is where we kind of have a folder structure where you can start to take a look at the different domains and you can jump into different folders. We call them entities and categories, where you can start to look about a topic. So there's two ways to look. One is searching and one is going from the folder structure. So let's say I'm in the K-12 world, right? And I say, okay, it's about staff, right? So I'm in K-12. Well, it's about a staff member. How many years of experience do they have? It's not about a student or a school. So I'm going to open up staff, right? And I have some options here. Well, it's not about their identity. It's not about contact or demographic or assignment. What am I looking at? Employment. I want to know how many years they have in a particular area. So I open up employment. Okay, what do I have in here? Now we're at the element level, right? So here are the different elements in CEDS. I see start date and end dates, hire dates, titles, contract days. I see health benefits, role, annual supplement, longevity. I don't see anything related to years of experience in this particular area. So does CEDS even have anything related to years of experience? Maybe it'd be something in like professional development. No, nothing related to years of experience. Okay, this path isn't working for me from the folder structure, but I don't want to give up yet. I don't want to just open a ticket. Let's jump over instead to the elements. So if I just click directly on elements, it's going to bring me over to here where I can look and go to the domain entity schema. I can view the version 11 elements. I can do a download as an Excel file. So I'm going to click on the version 11 elements, and this lets me just start to search. I can search words, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I want to search in my particular area. I'm going, I know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for years of experience. So here we go. Search, nothing. Okay, so CEDS doesn't have anything related to years of experience. Maybe. So it's looking for that exact phrase, years of experience. Maybe I shouldn't be so specific, but instead I should just take off part of this. So let's get rid of years of experience and let's just say experience. And I do a search. Okay, so they definitely have things related to experience. Now, when you're doing this search, when you put this in here, what it's looking through the element name. As you can see, no experience. The word experience is in the element name. It's looking through the element name. It's looking through the option set descriptions. It's looking through the option set definitions, and it's looking through the definitions inside of CEDS. So it's looking for anywhere that it can find the word experience inside of there. So I have quite a few elements in here that deal with experience. And so maybe I want to pare this down some. So in the advanced search location, I can specify where I want to search for the word experience. Do I want to find it in the name? Do I want to find it in the definition? Do I want to find it in the option set? Let's just start off with the actual name of the element. Is experience anywhere in the name? So I can uncheck. option set. I can uncheck definitions, and I can just say, in the name itself, do I find the word experience? I do. I have the EdFacts in experience status. I have supervised clinical experience clock hours, years of prior adult education teaching experience, years of prior teaching. So here's where I get years of experience, but there are other items in there that classify that type of experience for me. Okay, so CEDS does have the concept of years of experience, but what I'm looking for is years of staff experience, in a particular role or a job that a staff may be having. I still don't see that, right? So I'm looking over here. I have not found what I'm looking for, but I know the concept at least exists inside of CEDS. So this is something that CEDS does have, where you have years of experience, but it's not in CEDS, and this is particularly what I need. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to the open source community, and I'm going to say, is this something that anybody else is looking for? Do I need to open a use case ticket for this particular thing? Or has someone else already opened it and I need to join with them in the work of actually defining a new element inside of CEDS that would describe the years of experience? So at this point, Jackie's going to throw in the repository link so that we can head over to the GitHub site. And this is where the work is done. For this particular training, we're going to be talking about elements, but there are other repositories in here. The integrated data store has an issues location, the warehouse, the Parquet file, the ontology, where you can open issue tickets. But for this particular training, we're talking about the elements themselves. How do I get a new element inside of CEDS? Or how do I change an element inside of CEDS or add an option set? So I'm going to go over to the elements page, and then I'm going to click on the issues link. This is where you can find all of the different things that different stakeholders have added. So you can see here, here's a stakeholder, that have been adding tickets inside, and here's some different ones that have been adding tickets, and you just can head down and see. These are all the ones that are coming in. This one was actually added 30 minutes ago. This one was an hour ago. This one was yesterday. So use case tickets coming in. 211 open tickets, 351 closed tickets, and we'll kind of discuss a little bit about what that means as we go through this various different training here so you understand the process of CEDS, but more of that will probably happen in a later section. So here I am. I have this, you know what I need? I need years of experience, right? So rather than starting off by opening a new issue, I'm going to jump over here and I'm going to say, all right, what do I need? I need years of experience. So let's just start off with my phrase. I may need to pare it down and just say experience, but for now, we're going to go years of experience. I'm going to hit enter and see if anything shows up. Indeed, some things did show up. I have 6 open tickets and 4 closed tickets. Now here's where we'll discuss a little bit about closed. If a ticket is closed in CEDS, it means it's already been added to the standard, and you can come over here to the elements and find it. So I know that I'm looking at some closed tickets. These are not what I need because I looked over here and didn't find what I was looking for. But you may go ahead and look through some of those anyway. Years of prior teaching experience. That's not what I need. And this tag here tells you CEDS version 11, CEDS version 10, what version it was added in. So you're able to kind of look through this. It might give you a little bit more information since you were able to search years of experience over here. Somebody was asking about that. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry, but could you just one more time show us how we got to this screen?
Certainly. So here we are on the standards. And from here, we can go to CEDS elements. And from CEDS elements, we're looking for the particular issues, which is up here at the top.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. And so this gives me every issue, 411 open, 351 closed, every issue we've ever had since the beginning of using the open source community to track all of this. So anything that's ever added to CEDS, it's tracked in here now, starting, I think, with like version 9, maybe version 8, but don't quote me on that. So years of experience is what we're looking for. Has anybody opened up anything related to that in particular? So I will go ahead and search that one. And again, I found 10 tickets, 6 open, 4 closed. So what we have here is we have some tickets that we know have been closed and been out of the standard. We weren't able to find that. So I want to just pare down to just the open ones. So I could click on the close and just get the closed ones, but I want to look at just the open ones here. So it helps me to reduce the number of things I'm looking at since I wasn't able to find it in CEDS on the web page. Now I've got 6 different things. Do any of these look like what I'm looking for? This first one here, add the existing CEDS element out of workforce indicator. That's looking to add existing CEDS elements to other domains. That's not what I need. I need a new element. This one's talking about salary scale and schedule. That might not be what I need either, though you can always click on any of these to take a look at them. But these down here look interesting. So K-12 staff years of total experience. That one looks like something I may be interested in. CTE staff professional years of experience and license area years of experience to CEDS. These tags kind of give you some information as far as what's happening on this ticket. This particular one, nothing's taking place. This one has at least been looked at and things have been started. Whether they have continued or not continued is a question. This one here is pending community approval. It actually has a proposal in place right now, and in December of 2023, whatever this proposal is will be approved unless there's comments to the contrary that come in. This one kind of might be what I'm actually looking for right here. So I'm going to click on this one and take a look and see what they were looking for. So if I jump in here, I can read a little bit about what was initially proposed. I can see list of proposed element names. There's nothing here, but they went ahead and actually created a document that I can click on and open. And we'll take a look and see what they have proposed inside of there. So let me pull this over. So what they're looking for is years of total experience. I remember our use case, we were looking for the years of total experience of a staff member. They'd like to have the total number of years that a person has held this type of position. That's what we're looking for, and one or more education institutions. They're proposing to call it years of experience. And then they go through and provide a little bit of background. In Maine, total years of experience in a position factors into the school funding formula. There's a need for that to note the experience to date. Okay, so that's what they're looking for in that particular use case. We can also see that somebody has commented the Mississippi Department of Education is also in need of this data element to support collection and reporting of total years experience. So right now we have Maine and Mississippi who is interested in this. If this hadn't been pending community approval, this is something that you would also be able to comment on. This is what I'm looking for as well. My state, my organization is also looking for years of experience. So in this location, you can leave a comment and let people know that you're interested in this particular thing as well. You can also join in any work groups if they should be having those and discussions that could be taking place. In this particular instance, discussions have already occurred and there is actually a proposal that is pending community approval. So at this point, you're like, okay, I need this. Does this particular proposal meet my need? It will be approved in December of 2023. So I would definitely want to check this out. So you'd click on the K-12, you'd click on this actual proposal. This is the proposed solution. Open it up and take a look and see what is being proposed. We actually, through the work group that's occurred, have had 2 proposals, years of total experience and years of prior professional experience, 2 different types of years of experience. So this one's the total number of years that a person has held this position or a similar position of one or more organizations. And this definition is the total number of years an individual has previously held a similar professional position in one or more educational institutions prior to the current school year. So 2 different types of definitions, and then it goes into explaining how they arrived at that particular decision. So you look at this and you say, yeah, this is what I need. So actually what's happening is what I needed, which was years of total experience, has already been taken care of. So I don't need to propose a use case ticket in this instance. And I would actually go ahead and comment on this one to say, the proposal actually works for me. This is something that I need, so I can type into here. And then I can comment on that this proposal works for my state or my organization. If you were looking at this and you read something in there that wasn't quite what you needed, or you found that you need something additional, you can leave a comment in this particular location. And then perhaps Maine, Mississippi would go back and update this. They'd reach out to you and be able to update the actual ticket and the proposal, and then reissue the proposal for the community. However, let's say you arrive here and this is not what you need, and you go back to here and this is not what you need, and you look here and this is not what you need. You have not found what you need. At that point, as you're looking through, that's when it's time to actually go through and create a use case, right? So what we're going to do here now, if you are in this issues area, you can actually click on new issue. You can do it from right here in your search. If you just arrive at issues, new issues right here, right? So it's always on this issues tab. You're going to have access to this new issues button. So you're going to click on new issue. There are two options available for you. You have the bug report and you have the element or option set use case. Primarily, you're going to be using the second one because you're going to be proposing a new element in CDS, or you're going to be proposing a new option set in CDS, or you're going to be proposing a modification to the definition that may make it more broad, or a change in a description. Generally, you're going to be using the second one. The bug report is, guess what, CDS, you missed a comma in this particular location, or hey, there's a link in the definition or in the description or the usage notes inside of that element, and that link doesn't work anymore. It's not resolving to get me where I need to go. So any type of bug that you may see inside of it, there's an extra space in a certain location. So that's a bug report, just kind of making us aware of things inside of the standard that you found that just aren't quite right, but no real change to the standard itself. So you click on new issue. We're going to take a look, get started about what we see inside of here. So the first thing to know is that you don't need to know how to solve the issue before you create one. I want to make that just relatively clear. Sometimes they try to do all the research, which is good. You need to do the research, but come up with the actual solution, having done all the legwork and everything to bring this to this location and to actually submit the ticket. That's not necessary. The more you know, the more we know, the more other stakeholders know about what it is you need, the better, obviously, in here. But you don't need to have solved the issue before you create one. This is the place where you're actually going, and this is the time where you're actually going to introduce this to the community. And after you create the issue, the work begins. So what do you already know at this point? You know what you need. You know fairly well how you would define it from your organization's perspective. So how does your organization define years of experience, right? You already know that. You know what you need. You know why you need it. You know how you plan on using this element. So you'd be able to describe how your organization's actually using years of experience. So that particular use case, you could actually explain. All of those kind of things can be described in the ticket. So what do you fill in? The first thing you fill in a title. And remember how we search for years of experience, right? It's going to be searching the title, but understand that the search feature, it also searches all of the ticket as well. So it's not just searching the title, it's searching everywhere inside the ticket to see what it can find. So years of experience, if you happen to address that anywhere in the title, in the description, the background, if somebody was searching for years of experience, they'd be able to find that. Or if they just search for the word experience, they would be able to find that as well. So there's a couple things we need to know right off the bat. One, who are you? So the author. Who are you representing? And an email address so that others can get a hold of you, so that CDS can get a hold of you and want to join in the work that you're actually going to do for the community and participate in that particular thing. Then there are basic pieces of information to start the ticket. So the title, again, just repeated from what we had at the top of the ticket, and then we get to the main point. So down here, you describe what you need and some background. It says the proposed element name, definitions option. That doesn't have to be what's actually going to be in CEDS. If you have a good understanding of CEDS, the naming, you could go ahead and propose the element name and option sets in this location if you've already got a good idea of what it is you're looking for. But it could also just be what you know it as. Here's the element name as I know it. Here are the definition. Here's the definition of element as I know it, assuming you even have a definition. Here are the option sets that our particular organization uses for this. So being able to list that out and provide that information to the CDS community is valuable. So it doesn't have to be what will be in CDS. It's just what you're working with. And then you provide some background information. And this is where you tell us about the why. You're telling the community about the why. How does your organization presently use it? Is it part of state reporting? Is it part of federal reporting? Is it part of research? Is it part of records management? Anything at all in this location that you can provide is helpful for those who will be reading it. And then the one last thing is the location in the domain ID schema, which we had shown before over here in this particular model. If you have an idea of about where it would live, right, you're like, I think this should have been under employment, then you can provide that particular location. It's more optional, but it kind of helps to give some use case and context around how you would think that would live in a data environment. Like I would expect that to be under employment related to a particular staff member. So you have an idea where to leave, you can provide that context as well. So after you've keyed everything in, as far as that's concerned, you click Submit New Issue. After clicking Submit New Issue, basically what you've done, you've just informed the entire CEDS community, or at least those paying attention to what's going on inside of GitHub, that there is a need related to this particular topic. They can then comment on that and let you know they have a similar need. They can comment on it and provide you information related to their element definitions, something similar, their option sets that might be slightly different than your option sets. And the conversation can actually begin now where other stakeholders can describe how it works in their organization. That provides detail about how organizations differ, which allows us then to create something common that could work for more than one organization. Okay, so now that we have that understanding in place, we're going to take a look at some tickets that have been created already to understand a little bit more about the process. So I'm going to jump over here and we're going to look at a particular ticket, 715. And so they all have numbers. So Jackie's going to throw in the chat, the actual link directly to the ticket if you want to take a look at that. I'm just going to type in 715 because I know it's there. Sometimes more than one ticket pops up if you type in lower numbers, but this is the actual link. And so in the chat, you have access to that same one that you're able to get there. So this one's been open. We need to add new elements, neglected program type, and delinquent program types. And if we scroll down here, we can take a look and see the neglected program types is being proposed, is not being proposed. This is what they're suggesting. Neglected program types is the element name, the definition, the types of neglected programs under Title I, Part D, Subpart 1, State Agency of ESCA as amended. And then here are some options: group home shelters, residential treatment home, etc. And then we have delinquent program types of delinquent program types. So describing, here's what we're looking for. We need two elements basically to describe program types, and we need option sets that are standard inside of CEDS to be able to describe what type of delinquent program or what type of neglected program there actually is. So it's good descriptions right there. And then we need an element neglected or delinquent program type and the type of program under ESCA. Neglected programs, got usage notes. So this is actually to modify an existing element by adding a new option inside of CEDS. So looking at this one, they want to add some additional options inside of CEDS. And some use case background, what we're looking at here is the most recent EDFACS OMB package retired the existing data group and replaced it with new data groups. Okay, so now we have context related to this particular ticket. We know that this is related to EDFACS. So there's changes that have occurred in EDFACS, and this is what's happening. That points us to an actual standard in place, which would be EDFACS. And we know that all states do EDFACS reporting. So that helps a lot because we also know that then all states at some point, somehow, are going to be able to aggregate to these options and these descriptions, assuming these are the options and descriptions that are actually in the EDFACS file specification. So we already have an existing standard, which is EDFACS. We have an understanding of that standard that states can aggregate to this, which helps to actually create proposals related to what's going to be added inside of CEDS. So here's a ticket, and that's the background, right? It has not, we don't have a proposal yet, so we don't have nothing that's actually been proposed to actually change in CEDS. But if you were looking for something related to neglected delinquent, and you typed in neglected, this would pop up. Or you typed in delinquent, this would pop up. Or neglected or delinquent, this would pop up, right? Because it's got that text inside of there. And so that's a ticket that's just provided context in relation to that. We can also see that it's related to another ticket, 682. So going through the tickets, we saw, hey, 682 is kind of similar. And over here, we see that Mississippi Department of Education has submitted a ticket as well. And for them, they're looking at Title I, Part D, Subpart 1 and 2. They need to include the types of programs. So we have adult correctional institutions, all the various different things that are inside of there. They relate it to EdFacts. And then they go into use case background. Mississippi needs to collect Subpart 2 organizations to complete EdFacts reporting, in addition to connecting students to juvenile detention centers. There's currently an element in CEDS, which is what they're referring to, at the student level for neglected or delinquent program type, but no way to connect this element, connect this to organization of those types. So they're actually expanding a little bit more on this previous ticket that we saw over there to say we need to be able to access this in some way like it is an organization. So that provides us a little more context in this. And what they're saying is this residential treatment home, that's actually an organization. It's going to have a name. We may only need from CDS perspective to allow, or from EdFacts perspective, to aggregate it under this. But what if a state is actually collecting the name of the actual residential treatment home? They have identifiers assigned to that. They have address information for the residential treatment home. They have additional information as an organization about that residential treatment home. So that's what Mississippi is saying over there. Not only do we need this just for EdFacts reporting and to be able to classify that a student is participating in this program, we need to be able to explain more information about the program itself. The name of the program, the identifier of the program, the address of the program, all those various different things. So in considering CDS, how you build this neglected program and delinquent program type element, consider the fact that it has to also be an organization. So this group home, that's an organization, has a name. This community program, that's an organization, has a name, right? This adult correction, it has a name. So we can associate a student with an actual community program or an actual juvenile detention center within the state that has a name and has an identifier and has an address, has a location. So that's just provides additional detail. Without what Mississippi did to comment on it, all we would know is it's needed for EdFacts, right? We would not have known that we also need more context in developing this out to understand that this is actually an organization, not just an option related to a student. So that's one example of a ticket. The other example we're going to take a look at is ticket 62, and I can actually just backspace over this, but she will put a link into the document for you for issue 62. We're going to bring that one up. This one was submitted by the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, and it is related to adding 2 new CDS elements, a dropout reason code and verified dropout. And in this particular one, we're looking at NCDPI, which is what North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, and they need they're needing 2 things basically. They have one that's called dropout reason code, and then they have another one that is called the verified dropout. And you can see down below that they actually provide you with dropout reason codes inside of their particular state. So these are not CDS codes. Just as I mentioned before, you don't have to supply the actual solution, but you supply what you know and open up a particular use case and say, hey, look, here's what we have. We have dropout reasons, and we need that kind of thing added inside of us. You can see here down below that another organization, A4L, actually put a link to this, and so they're following this particular ticket as something that they may want to add into the CIF or Access for Learning standard as the work progresses along inside of that. And so what has occurred with this one, basically North Carolina submitted the ticket, but others have chimed in, and a work group was started to actually begin discussions around the dropout reason code. And we had 2 states in particular that needed this. We had North Carolina and Mississippi, both who had their own list, just like this, of dropout reason codes, but they were different. And some of them were rather distinctly different. And so this is where we start to talk about 99.9% of what you have in your state that's related education data is actually probably common, right? And so we got together with Mississippi, we got together with North Carolina. We're still kind of finalizing the list, but we just lined up Mississippi's options. We lined up North Carolina's options. We have input from other states. Michigan has some input in this. I think Maine's been on the call as well. There's some different people that are chiming in. Vermont's been on the call, but chiming in and saying, hey, look, we have these options. How can we create a stand? Is it possible even to create a standard set of options? So one option in CEDS to add in is that we could have added dropout reason code. We could have defined it, but not provided options. So you would understand that what you're seeing is the reason why the student dropped out. And then there is inside of that some kind of text field that somebody actually puts the reason why the student dropped out. But could we be more standard? And that was one question that was actually asked. Could we create a standard list of dropout reason codes that could expand over time as more and more states needed that? And so we listed North Carolina's reasons, we listed Mississippi's reasons, and we said, can we bring alignment between these? And actually, yeah, we were able to bring alignment between those codes. And very soon there will be down here a proposal that will be coming out that will indicate the dropout reason codes. We've actually completed the dropout reason code listing, and what we're working on right now to finalize is this concept of a verified dropout. So the additional element that North Carolina is looking for. And once that's finalized, there'll be a proposal for that. So as you can see, submitting a use case, you're just talking about your particular background, right? So creating a ticket's about providing information to the community about the challenge you need to solve in CEDS and letting the community know, hey, we're asking for input here. So next week, we're going to be talking about is what happens after you create the ticket, right? This one's been created. What happens next? How do we actually reach out to stakeholders? How do we go about doing the research? How does a work group work? How do I figure out if this is even common? How do all the different things take place? What are other standards that we're going to look at? We're going to talk about that as we delve into next week's, because that's really what's going to take place with this one. What was the process we went through the dropout reason code and the verified dropout to actually get to the point where down here, there's going to be a proposal that's actually submitted to say, we want to really add, we are saying, we want to add a dropout reason code element to CEDS. And these are the options for that dropout reason code. And we want to add an element related to verifying a dropout. And here's what that element's going to look like. And does it have option sets, etc. And that's what we're proposing to add into CEDS. That kind of that power really is within your hands, the stakeholders who are on this call, right? You're actually making the changes to CEDS. You're actually going to be adding things into the standard itself. So that's how you actually add a use case to CEDS. Whatever you know at the time, as much as you can describe in the use case ticket, add the new issue, and that begins the conversation. At this point, I am going to turn it back over to Jackie, who is going to talk about some of the homework that you guys are going to have over the next week. Not difficult, not anything crazy, but some homework that would be useful for you as we approach session 2 next week. So Jackie.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Dwayne. All right, I know that was a lot of information at one time for you all. So we do, looks like we're gonna have plenty of time for questions, but before we jump into the questions or comments, I will talk about the homework. As Dwayne kind of already told you, it's not a lot, but we just want you, basically what Dwayne just showed you, head into the open source community, where Dwayne was just exploring, years of experience in searching. He showed you the dropout reason codes, neglected and delinquent tickets. Search for any, maybe it's the field that you're in, what you're an expert in, and type that word into the open source community and search and see if there's a ticket that's already existing that you might have interest in. If you are really interested in it, go ahead and comment on it and just say, like, to whoever it is that submitted this ticket, whatever stakeholder it is that's in our community space, that you have knowledge about this, you're interested in helping them add this to CEDS and help them research. But if you're doing this search and you know that there's a topic in your organization, or you're having a conversation over the next week with a colleague and think like, hey, I wonder if CEDS has that, and you jump in onto our website and you don't see it, submit a ticket to the open source community over the next week. Just know that if you submit this information, we need you to do the research. We're here to help you, but you're going to need to do the research and get some people together to help see it through the whole process. So we do hope that you'll join us next Thursday. Come with your homework of just, hey, I found ticket 751 that I'm interested in. That's all we're asking you to do. But we hope that you'll join us next Thursday and then the following Thursday to see the research part of it and how to create a work group and how to get involved in CEDS. You can join any of the work groups we already have as well. So let me drop the link to our next 2 webinars. If you haven't registered already, and then I'm going to stop and give you all a minute to kind of process everything that you've heard today and see if you have questions, want us to go back over. We do have time. We can screen share again if you want the process of how to get back in the open source community. So I'll pause here for a second and see if there's any questions or comments. How will we get access to the recording in this session? I have colleagues. Oh, great question. So we will, we plan to send out a recording of all 3 at the conclusion, but I can grab your email from the registration list, Melissa, and get to the recording sooner if you'd like. So it would be like at the conclusion of the October 12th webinar, but happy to get it to you beforehand. Just let me know. Any other questions or comments?
Is there sort of a standard timeline that things go through once you've entered a use case? I know one of we were looking at earlier said, or I don't know if it said it or Dwayne just mentioned that it would wrap up in December of this year. But is there kind of like a overarching, once you go into a use case, kind of expect this amount of time or this schedule for creating a work group and having a discussion around the element or the option set?
So it will vary by use case for one thing. Some are going to be very complicated and some are going to be relatively easy to create proposals for. And we'll go into that a little bit more in session 2, as well as like the process for that. But a lot of it is like stakeholder driven. And what we're trying to do through like these sessions is teach you all how to actually move the tickets forward. So we have capacity to move some forward, and we try to look at different priorities. Is there more than one state asking for this or one stakeholder asking for this particular thing? Do we know that it's going to be something critical like the neglected delinquent program types? We know there's like 15 states implementing the resource called Generate that sits on top of CEDS, and they're going to have to do neglected delinquent reporting. And if we don't have those elements in CEDS, the warehouse can't be expanded, so we're impacting like 15 states, right? So we look at, from our end, we're looking at those kind of priorities. We also have a stakeholder work group that from like North Carolina, Mississippi, Michigan, Vermont, who have submitted quite a few tickets because they have implementations on the ground. And we work with them to say, here's a work group and you're prioritizing what tickets need to be done first from your perspective. But as others open tickets and join work groups, the capacity on our end to actually, from the CEDS team, to see it through to fruition is limited. But through this training, what we're trying to say is it's possible for anyone to see it through. And so the pace at which it moves is really going to be up to the stakeholder who needs it and opens the ticket. And as you'll see, hopefully you'll be able to attend other sessions, but we'll record them. In like session 2 here, we'll go through, here's the actual process to go from I've opened a ticket to I have a proposal ready, and I didn't even need to work with a CEDS team member to get to that point. And I can actually, you or anybody else, I can get the ticket to proposal stage and ready to go. And so at that point, the timeline is really entirely dependent upon whoever opened the ticket. And seeing it through. Not that we're going to stop working tickets on our end. We're still helping and assisting with different stakeholders and looking at priorities. But to work them all would be difficult. Once it's been proposed, there is a timeline. There's like a 60-day and a 90-day. 90-day for a breaking change and a 60-day for a review period. So once you got to the proposal stage and we've submitted that proposal, it's approximately 60 days to approval. And then once approved, it will show up on the website in the next iteration, which occurs every February. Follow up, feel free to follow up if I rambled too much or didn't answer the question correctly.
Nope, that was absolutely perfect. Thank you.
Awesome.
I am going to drop, since Dwayne, you just mentioned it, before our next webinar, next Thursday, we do have our open source community meeting that's happening on Tuesday, our monthly meeting, which might be good if we've sparked your interest here and you're wanting to know more what happens in those meetings. I'll send a link to that right here in the chat. I'm sorry I didn't have it ready for you all. And that might be a great meeting. You don't have to turn your camera on. You can just listen while you're working, but you can kind of hear what tickets are happening, who's coming to the meetings and discussions we have. That kind of helps kind of paint a full picture of the open source community and what happens to the tickets once the proposals are submitted. So I'll get that in the link I'll drop the link in the chat in just a minute.
I've got it for you there.
Oh, thanks, Dwayne.
It's actually on Monday.
Oh, sorry, Monday.
Yeah.
Something else is on Tuesday.
I will throw this in as well, just because this may be useful to know. Our events are located here. Any work group that's planned. So if you were to say, I want to do a work group around a particular ticket, we could put that on the events calendar for others to attend. All of our events are open for anyone to attend. You can come and just listen. You don't have to actually participate. You don't have to say anything. You could just come watch and see the process that takes place in the different types of work groups that are occurring.
Doris, you made a comment about the timeline overview, and yes, that's great feedback, and we'll make sure we include that in our presentation next Thursday, like an overview of the timeline. We do have we'll share the Gitbook next week that shows an image of like the proposal process. Thanks for that, Doris. Any other questions or comments? Well, we still have some time, so we'll stay on, but we appreciate everyone coming, and I see lots of comments about getting the recording out. So we will work on getting that out to everyone that registered for today's session to you prior to next Thursday's webinar series, and we hope to see you there. I did drop the links to the registration in the chat for the next two, October the 5th and October the 12th. So we appreciate you coming today. And again, we're going to stay on for a few more minutes. So if you want to stay and chat or have a question or need us to screen share, just let us know. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Since we have a couple minutes, would it be helpful to put the link out there for the AEM training site where there's a lot of different webinars that might be helpful for people that are just getting started?
Sorry, Doris, say
Yeah,
that again.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Enlighten us,
Let me
Doris.
see if I can.
You think I
find
should
the
know
link and
that,
share it.
but I don't know.
Just putting us on the
Hold on.
spot. Oh, and I can stop sharing. Let me see.
Yeah, if you can provide the link, maybe something we throw in the chat for the next session.